Well, hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Live at 5, the show I was so lazy about I couldn't even come up with a proper title for, other than saying I'm going to go live at 5 every single day. So, this is a new streaming schedule I'm trying out in 2022 where I'm trying to just be more consistent about things, make sure that I'm popping up at the same time every day. And what we do on the show is we talk about some stuff that's going on in the world. Today we're going to talk about some warm fuzzies. We're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about what to do when you don't have as much love in your life as you might like, and why some of the people that you might like in your life, I don't know why my hair's looking crazy today, why some of the people that you love in your life may not be receptive to that love. So we're going to do some spiritual stuff today too, because it's Tarot Tuesday. We've got Joshua later tonight. Joshua's still going to be coming up later. So we're going to talk about some spirituality, some symbology. We're also going to talk about some nonsense that the Democrats are doing. I mean, let's be honest, we knew this week was going to have an awful lot of nonsense about it because it is the week of the worst event in the history of America, January 6th. And so we knew the Democrats were going to do some nonsense, and we're going to talk about what some of that nonsense is. But welcome, guys. I am live right now on YouTube, on my main channel. I am live on Odyssey. I am live on Rockfin. And I will be going live on these channels every day of the week, Sunday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Now, on Fridays, we do something a little bit different. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute, but I'm really proud of myself, guys. I'm so proud of myself because I'm like that kid in school right now that got their paper done early. Did any of you guys, when you were in school, you were the person that started your paper at the very last minute? Yeah, it was always me. That was always me. Anytime I actually got my research done early, or I got even like the draft done a couple days before it was due, I was like so proud of myself. And I was like, this is so great. Next time I'm going to start a couple days early. I may even start a week ahead of time. And that's kind of how I feel today, because what I did today, just to help you guys out and to let you know what's coming up, is I scheduled all of my live streams for the week. So we've got lots of good stuff coming up. Now, as a reminder, on Tuesdays, we have Nothing Remotely Controversial at 9:30 tonight. This is a regular show that I do with my friend Joshua the Psychic. And Joshua is freakishly accurate about predicting what is going to happen in the news. He's getting really, really good at it. So we take your questions. We've already got a super chat from John Morgan. Thank you for that, John. Are we about to enter a second age of enlightenment? Now, that's a more spiritual question that we might answer on Nothing Remotely Controversial, but we have answered such questions as, will Donald Trump run for president again? Does Matt Walsh dye his beard? Do aliens exist on this planet? We take all sorts of super chats. Joshua works his psychic magic, and you can join us for that, per usual, at 9:30 tonight. Now, tomorrow, I don't know what I'm talking about yet tomorrow, but I will be live at 5 o'clock tomorrow on the channel. We'll have to see what's going on. But I do want to talk about a programming note for Thursday, okay? Thursday, I will not be live at 5 because on Thursday, I will be in the tattoo chair for the tattoo appointment that I made a year ago. Because that's how good my tattoo artist is that's working on sleeving out my arm. I had to book him a year in advance. And so I'm sorry, I'm not rescheduling around this tattoo appointment. I will be in the tattoo chair, I think at 5, but I will be back later that night. And what I'm really hoping that we do, I'm so excited about this, guys, on January 6th, we're going to do our second Joy Reid live reaction stream and MSNBC Insurrection watch party on January 6th on Thursday, starting at around 6:45 p.m. I might have a couple special guests. I might have Seth Waters, the owner of BringAmmo.com, join me on the stream. I might have Justin O'Donnell joining me on the stream, who's libertarian fame, and he might come on for a little while. But we're going to watch Joy Reid's January 6th show live. You know this is going to be a shit show of epic proportion, and we're going to have some fun. Matthew, are you doing Nothing Remotely Controversial tonight? Yes, Matthew, I am. It's already even scheduled on the channel. You can make sure you go set yourself a reminder. So we're going to be doing live Joy Reid reaction stream on January 6th, but a little bit later, just because I have to schedule around this tattoo appointment, but I know you guys forgive me because it's going to be awesome. And then on Friday, we are going to be doing happy hour, and I've got a great happy hour planned for Friday. It's going to be on my second channel, Actively Unwoke. You can find the link in the description below. That's youtube.com/actively unwoke. I used to do happy hour on this channel. I am now moving it exclusively over to Actively Unwoke. And I was told at this New Year's Eve party I went to, I was told that one of the things I just had to watch was the Democratic Socialist Convention from 2019. Apparently, this convention, I'm sure some of you have seen it, was an epic train wreck of wokeness. I have an hour and a half movie from the convention or live stream that they did that we're going to watch. I think it's going to be a grand old time. We will do that. We'll have ourselves some beers. We'll celebrate the end of the week, and we'll make fun of the woke socialist convention. Brooks asked in the chat, what about Return to Reason, next Unscrewed podcast? Truman and I need to schedule that for the next Unscrewed podcast. You're right about that. Thing is, Truman had a kid. He has a new baby. He has a new son. So Truman's been a little bit busy, but we have been texting. We are planning on getting together for the next podcast. So don't worry, Unscrewed is coming, but dude's been busy. Give him a break. And then, of course, on Sunday, we will be back for Effed Up News of the Week, which I do every Sunday at 5 p.m. You can find all of this on the channel right now. And so make sure you set your reminder time. Make sure you mount that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, maybe I will earn your subscription today. All right, let's jump into it. Check this out. Check this out. This is on the National Pulse. Democrats draft legislation to erect a permanent insurrection memorial. I mean, come on. Come on! Check this out. House Democrats introduced a bill to erect a permanent attack on the Capitol exhibit on the grounds of the U.S. Capitol. Guys, just so you know, if you are a member of my locals community, and all of you should be a member of my locals community, you can join actually. Oh, let me get my ticker. Hang on, I forgot the ticker. You can join at kb.locals.com/support. And the reason I say you should become a member of my locals community is that we currently are working on January 6th shitposting. Nathan in locals, shout out Nathan, has been doing a great job of rallying posts and ideas that we can all send out all across our social media on January 6th to thumb our nose at the idiocy of the Democrats who want to erect a permanent memorial, who are going to have a national day of mourning on January 6th as the worst thing that has ever happened in the history of ever. We've got some great shit posting going on in my locals, planning, getting all set up for that. So if you haven't joined my locals before, this is definitely the time to do it. Co-sponsored by nearly 20 Democrats, the bill dubbed the Capitol Remembrance Act would direct the architect of the Capitol to design and install in the United States Capitol an exhibit that depicts the attacks on the Capitol that occurred on January 6th. The bill specifies that the project must be installed in a prominent location and retain a permanent status. Property damaged during the attack, photographs, and a plaque honoring the sacrifices of heroes, including United States Capitol Police officers Brian Sicknick, are among the exhibit requirements. Officer Sicknick, however, died of natural causes, according to the DC's chief medical examiner. The architect may include artwork depicted or created to depict the attack. Oh, check this out. And I actually have the full bill. We can take a look at the actual bill. The architect may include artwork created to depict the attack on the Capitol. The legislation, actually, let's just read the bill. H.R. 1627. You can see that here are our sponsors. Oh, God, Jayapal. Of course, she's sponsoring it. Annie Custer. Annie Custer is one of my congresswomen. Of course, Annie Custer is sponsoring it. Anyone in New Hampshire needs to remember this. Annie Custer is going to have herself one heck of an opponent. I can't say who yet because it's not announced yet, but Annie Custer is going to have one heck of an opponent, I'll tell you that. To direct the architect of the Capitol to design and install in the United States Capitol an exhibit that depicts the attack on the Capitol that occurred on January 6, 2021, and for other purposes. Not later than 2 years after the date of the enactment of this act, the architect of the Capitol, in consultation with the Joint Committee on the Library, shall carry out a project to design and install in a prominent location in the United States Capitol a permanent exhibit that depicts the attacks on the Capitol that occurred on January 6, 2021. Exhibit requirements: inclusion of Capitol property. The architect shall, to the extent practical, preserve property from the United States Capitol and or the Capitol grounds that was damaged during the attack and include such property in the exhibit described in subsection A. So things like broken windows. I mean, I saw a guy get nailed in the head right in front of me with a tear gas canister. Is that going to be in the exhibit? He was bleeding from the head. He fell down. I wasn't really sure what happened because I got tear gas too, so I was on the ground too. I was just covering up my nose and mouth when that happened. Anywho. Photographic records. The architect shall include existing photographic records relating to the attack on the Capitol as described in the subsection. A plaque. The architect shall include in the exhibit of the subject plaque the United States Capitol Police and other law enforcement agencies that participated in protecting the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Yo, I was there. The police weren't doing nothing. I was reading today about all these articles of of Capitol Police planning on suing Trump. I have video on my phone from outside the Capitol because I did not go in the building. I stayed outside. I have video of the police standing around and doing nothing. I have video of the police marching around and doing nothing. I have video of the police marching by people who were breaking windows and doing nothing to stop it. So, my sympathy for the Capitol Police is not altogether there at the moment. The sacrifices of heroes, including United States Capitol Police officers Brian Sicknick and all these other names I'm not going to pronounce, and those who sustained injuries as a result of protecting the United States Capitol on January 6th. The Capitol staff that helped restore the Capitol complex after the attack. Artwork. The architect may include artwork created to depict the attack on the Capitol in the exhibit described in subsection. They're authorized to be appropriated such sums as are necessary to carry this out. Available appropriations pursuant to this subsection shall remain available until expended. Well, that's nice. Isn't it nice that they want to basically create a memorial for something that didn't really happen? Doesn't this stuff make you question every event that you ever learned throughout history? Listen, obviously I'm not going to deny that January 6th happened. I was effing there. I was watching some of the video today. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I remember the feeling of walking up to the Capitol and being like, what the hell is going on? But seeing how it's been depicted in the media and all the nonsense since then, doesn't it make you question everything that you have ever been taught about history? I mean, the victor writing the history books, the winner writing the history books, that whole concept has never been more pronounced to me than it is in relation to January 6th. Because for everyone who was there, what was reported and what continues to be reported and the National Day of Mourning and Remembrance is nothing compared to what was actually experienced that day. It is two completely different events. I was watching a video from CNN earlier. CNN was interviewing Trump supporters. They were trying to trick them as they always do. And they were interviewing these people that were like, it was all a setup. It was all a setup. And you know what? I mean, they're probably not wrong about that. The FBI was provably effing there. But it's like we live in a reality in which we do not have a shared history of that day. There is the history that the people who were there that day experienced. That is a completely different history than what was reported in the media, which, of course, what was reported in the media will be the thing that everyone who wasn't there observed from it. I don't know how we come back from stuff like this. I really don't. Let's see some super chats. Naruto, I'm not sure this is appropriate. But okay. Thought you'd get a kick out of this. Jack Murphy has been added to a Steam game called Cuck Simulator. Poor Jack Murphy. Poor guy. And then we have another one from Naruto. How long before that permanent memorial is vandalized by BLM? Well, I mean, this is a fair question. Why aren't the Republicans calling for memorials for every BLM riot? What would happen if this memorial was vandalized by BLM? How would that be reported? Will BLM be allowed to pull this memorial down because it causes them emotional harm? So many questions. So many questions about the Capitol. But guys, don't worry, because Biden is going to tell us what really happened on January 6th. White House says Biden will speak to the truth of January 6th in pointed jabs at Trump lies. The White House press secretary says Mr. Biden's remarks will reflect the reality of the worst attack on the Capitol since 1814, not the lies pushed by former President Donald Trump. Do you guys remember back in the summer of 2020 when Black Lives Matter literally sieged the White House? That happened. That really happened. Black Lives Matter sieged the White House to the point where they had to move Donald Trump to the bunker. And then the media came out and called him Bunker Boy and made fun of him for going to the bunker when Black Lives Matter was literally sieging the effing White House. That was real. But no, January 6th with, 50,000 minimally Trump supporters on the Capitol lawn, waving their flags and chanting their chants. That was the worst attack in American history, please. President Joe Biden will address the historical significance of the January 6th insurrection by discussing the reality of what happened during the worst attack on the Capitol since the 1814 burning of Washington. Mr. Biden is scheduled to speak from the Capitol's Statuary Hall on Thursday morning to mark the one-year anniversary of the day a riotous mob armed with chemical spray, stun guns, and other improvised weapons stormed the Capitol in hopes of preventing Congress from certifying the 2020 election victory. I'm sorry, what? They were armed with what? Trump supporters are some of the most ardent defenders of the Second Amendment. Do you think for 1 second that if people who are ardent defenders of the Second Amendment want to stage an insurrection, that they're not going to bring their effing guns? Why would they need chemical spray, stun guns, and other improvised weapons? If they had wanted to stage an insurrection, they would have brought their guns with them. This is just basic logic. I don't know what is so hard to figure out about this for normal people. According to the Fraternal Order of Police, at least 140 U.S. Capitol Police and D.C. Metropolitan Police suffered injuries at the hand of the pro-Trump mob that day. Excuse me? What? Okay, please. 3 rioters and 1 Capitol Police officer, Brian Sicknick, died in the immediate aftermath of the attack, while several other officers have taken their own lives in the year since. I mean, it is a little bit of a coincidence that these police officers are mysteriously taking their own lives. What did those police officers know about what happened on January 6th that resulted in a bunch of them taking their own lives? Tragic and sad, and I'm sorry for their families. I really am. But what did they know? What did they find out? Because again, I was there, as I'm sure were some of you, and the police were standing around not doing a damn thing. They were standing around doing nothing. Sin would like to remind everyone that the like button needs to be erected. Please mount that like button if you have not already, or at least fortified. The Democrats get to fortify everything. We can fortify the like button. Come on. But Mr. Trump, who reportedly watched the violence on television from his West Wing private dining room that day, and many of his allies in the media have consistently downplayed the violence that day. Asked about the content of Mr. Biden's planned remarks, Ms. Psaki said, Mr. Biden is going to speak to the truth of what happened, not the lies that some have spread, and the peril it posed to the rule of law and our system of democratic governance. He will also commemorate the heroes of January 6th, especially the brave men and women of law enforcement who fought to uphold the Constitution and protect the Capitol and the lives of people who were there. Let's just remind everyone that this is the side that was ardently arguing to defund the police for the entirety of 2020. And now they're lifting them up and memorializing their brave sacrifice. He will also speak to the work we still need to do to secure and strengthen our democracy and our institutions to reject the hatred and lies we saw on January 6th and unite our country. Oh, so here's what it really is. He's going to talk about the Voting Rights Act. That's what they're really going to talk about. That's what the Democrats are going to use January 6th for, to push the voting rights bill. A short time later, Ms. Psaki was asked if Mr. Biden feels there is anything further he can do to change the minds of Trump supporters who believe the lies spread by the former presidents about his successor's legitimacy. She replied, I think what he's going to do is continue to speak to everyone in the country. Those who didn't vote for him, those who may not believe he's the legitimate president, about what he wants to do to make their lives better. And he sees that it's his responsibility as president of the United States. That's what he will continue to do. While Biden hasn't been doing a great job of making people's lives better, Biden especially hasn't been doing a great job of making the lives of children better. I got some interesting information from Damian Jarrett, who is the advocacy director for the Walkaway campaign, yesterday. He sent me these images about what's going on in public schools in Massachusetts. And to be quite frank, I just don't know what to say, guys. Sometimes like I still get surprised. I still get surprised by how parents will allow their children to be abused by the public schools. I thought I had seen everything. Nope, apparently not. Damien tweeted this out. He says, if your kid goes to school in this Massachusetts town, Salem, you are urged to send them with blankets, coats, gloves, hats, and scarves as they leave the windows wide open in classrooms and the cafeteria, regardless of temperature. They encourage eating outside down to 20 degrees. Let's take a look at these actual emails. 1. Our classroom window will remain open throughout the year, including these colder winter months. Please be sure to dress in layers. Bring a coat or blanket with you to keep warm, or bring a hat or scarf. And then this one, number 5, eating in schools. We will continue to encourage students to eat outside if the weather is approximately 20 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. Even during these colder months, we are asking that windows remain open in all of our cafeterias and classrooms, regardless of the outdoor temperature. Thank you in advance for providing your children with appropriate clothing so that we can optimize airflow in our indoor spaces. This is because of COVID. They're going to give children pneumonia because they want to leave the windows open and make them eat outside when it is 20 degrees out. Now, I don't know where you guys grew up. I don't know where you guys live. I grew up in Vermont. Vermont is a pretty cold place. Does anyone know how cold it is when it's 20 effing degrees out and you're going to tell children that they need to go and eat their lunch outside when it's 20 degrees out and, oh, just send a blanket and that'll make it all better? You're going to tell children that they need to learn in a classroom that is freezing, so freezing, they need to bring multiple layers of clothing and blankets with them to a public school where the state is compelling them to be, paid for by your taxpayer dollars. You're going to tell me that is an adequate learning environment for children? But no, we just have to keep everyone safe. We just have to keep everyone safe by keeping the windows wide open in the classrooms. Are you off your nut? Would any of you allow your kids to go to this school? And this isn't even the only one, because I tweeted this out, and check this out. Check this out. I got this response. This is from another school in Massachusetts. Beginning tomorrow, we will no longer be having a snack time in the classroom for any grade level. With the spike in cases, we do not feel it is safe enough to have students in the classrooms without masks on at any point. We will revisit this in the spring when the weather begins to turn and we can explore outdoor snacks again. I know that many parents are intimidated by homeschooling. I understand. I understand that you have jobs. I understand that you may not think you can teach your kids. I understand that you may not know where to go for resources. But the public schools are abusing your children. If you aren't going to do anything about it, then why did you have kids in the first place? There are times, I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tear. There are times that I feel that I don't have kids. Why do I care more about how your kids are treated in public schools than you do? Yeah, Diane B in the chat and on YouTube brings up a great point. Why aren't social workers speaking up about this? What if a parent in their home forced their child to sit in a room all day in 20-degree weather with the window open, all day stuck in that room, all day, every day, kid gets pneumonia. All of a sudden, Child Protective Services is called in. Why are you forcing your kid to sit in their room all day in 20-degree weather with the window wide open? Well, they did it in school, so it must be okay. I just don't know how far it has to go before this stops. I don't know how far it has to go before parents wake up and start pulling their kids out of the flipping public schools. But guess what? An interesting thing happened today that maybe gives us a smidge of hope. There was an article in the New York Times that looked like it might be turning against the teachers' unions. Check this out. If any of you are surprised that the New York Times published this, you're not alone. But let's try to keep an open mind. When they do something correct, we should reward them, give them a little pat on the back. No way to grow up. For the past 2 years, Americans have accepted more harm to children in exchange for less harm to adults. What's going on here, New York Times? Didn't expect this attitude out of you. American children are starting 2022 in crisis. I have long been aware that the pandemic was upending children's lives, but until I spent time pulling together data and reading reports, I did not understand just how alarming the situation had become. Today's newsletter offers an overview of that crisis. If only there had been people that were screaming from the time this whole thing started that there were going to be problems. Hi. There were those of us that were doing that. But now all of a sudden, the left and the New York Times and the mainstream media have discovered that, oh my God, all of these policies hurt kids and maybe don't have a lot of return on investment. The toll: children fell far behind in school during the first year of the pandemic and have not caught up. Among 3rd through 8th graders, math and reading levels were all lower than normal this fall, according to NWEA, a research group. The shortfalls were largest for Black and Hispanic students, as well as students in schools with high poverty rates. We haven't seen this kind of academic achievement crisis in living memory. So you know what this means, right? You know what this means. The schools are guilty of systemic racism. the schools and how they're treating students throughout the pandemic with the masks and the lockdowns and the distance learning and the open windows and the no snack, the schools are creating racial disparities. Racial disparities, according to Ibram X. Kendi, is the very definition of racism. Anytime there is a racial disparity, according to Ibram X. Kendi, this is his definition, not mine. Anytime a racial disparity exists, the only possible way that that could be a reality is if systemic racism is the culprit. So it looks like the teachers' unions have been perpetuating systemic racism on the masses for the past 2 years. Many children and teenagers are experiencing mental health problems aggravated by the isolation and disruption of the pandemic. 3 medical groups, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, recently declared a national state of emergency in children's mental health. They cited dramatic increases in emergency department visits for all mental health emergencies. Yesterday on the stream, we talked about how adults are getting more and more angry. You can go back and watch that section of the stream if you haven't seen it yet. It's happening to kids too. I don't know if I can say that word. So attempts to end lives have risen slightly among adolescent boys, sharply among adolescent girls. The number of ER visits for attempts to end life by 12 to 17-year-old girls rose by 51% from early 2019 to early 2020. Gun violence against children has increased. As part of a broader nationwide rise in crime in Chicago, for example, 101 residents under age 20 were murdered in the last year, up from 76 in 2019. School shootings have risen. The Washington Post counted 42 last year in the U.S., the most on record, up from 27 in 2019. Many schools have still not returned to normal, worsening learning losses and social isolation. Once normal aspects of school time, lunchtime, extracurricular activities, assemblies, school trips, parent-teacher conferences, reliable bus schedules, and apparently closed windows on 20-degree days have been transformed, if not eliminated. When The Morning asked parents and teachers about the situation in their local schools, we heard an outpouring of anguish. This is no way for our children to grow up. It is maddening. For so many kids, school represents a safe, comfortable, reliable place, but not nearly for 2 years now. Well, no, for most kids, public schools are the only place they will ever experience violence in their lives. A lot of the joy and camaraderie that signifies a happy, productive school culture have disappeared. Behavior problems have increased. Schools across the country say they're seeing an uptick in disruptive behaviors. Some are obvious and visible, like students trashing bathrooms, fighting over social media posts, or running out of the classroom. Others are quieter calls for help, like students putting their head down and refusing to talk. Well, guess what, guys? When you make them wear a mask over the thing that they use to express themselves for 6 to 8 hours a day, every day for 2 years, that's going to inhibit expression. If you're wondering why students are not talking, the basic answer is because you forced them to wear masks. And when you force them to wear masks, it didn't just impact their ability to communicate with each other. It also impacted their self-esteem. It impacted their self-worth. Because our propensity to express ourselves verbally is directly linked to how we feel about ourselves. You know, I heard a story last week sometime, I think, from someone who was telling me that she was talking about how I'd been calling out the mental health crisis that masks were going to create from the very beginning. And she was telling me that she met someone who said, I'm going to keep wearing a mask even after this pandemic is over because I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I look, so I'm going to wear a mask over my face so I get to cover the way I look. I always said from day one that making people wear something over their mouths was going to create a mental health crisis in this country. And now we're starting to see the impact of that mental health crisis in this country. And it is impacting children the most because they were the ones that were forced to wear masks for 6 to 8 hours a day in school. You know, most of their teachers were mask Nazis, refused to take the mask off even when their parents told them to take it off because they got so used to wearing it. It became like a security blanket for them, not expressing themselves because they're wearing something over the thing they use to express themselves. So it's not as comfortable to talk. And because they're not expressing themselves, their self-esteem is going to suffer. And then you're going to have behavior problems, and you're going to have mental health problems, and you're going to have increased attempts at things that you don't want kids doing. There were some of us that have been screaming about this for 2 years, and the New York Times has just discovered it. There's a lot of swearing, vandalism, and some fights. Meanest, most inappropriate comments to teachers in 15 years of working. The variant is now scrambling children's lives again. Most schools have stayed open this week, but many have canceled sports, plays, and other activities. Some districts have closed schools for a day or more, despite evidence that most children struggle to learn remotely. Closings are now taking place in Atlanta, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Newark, and several New York City suburbs, among other places. The teachers' unions are demanding that we do it all again because of a variant that it seems is no more dangerous than a common cold, but check with the CDC for all your medical-related questions. Don't listen to me. The CDC is our God. Hard choices. For the past 2 years, large parts of American society have decided harming children was an unavoidable side effect of COVID-19. And that was probably true in the spring of 2020 when nearly all of society shut down to slow the spread of a deadly, mysterious virus. But the approach has been less defensible in the past year. And as we have learned more about both COVID and the extent of children suffering from pandemic restrictions, data now suggests that many changes to school routines are of questionable value in controlling the virus's spread. This is in the New York Times. I don't want to hear any grief, YouTube. I'm reading directly out of the New York Times. Some researchers are skeptical that school closures reduce COVID cases in most instances. Other interventions, like forcing students to sit apart from their friends at lunch, may also have little benefit. One reason: severe versions of COVID, including long COVID, are extremely rare in children. For them, the virus resembles a typical flu. Children face more risk from car rides than COVID. The widespread availability of vaccines since last spring also raises an ethical question. Should children suffer to protect unvaccinated adults who are voluntarily accepting COVID risk for themselves and increasing everyone else's risk too? Right now, the United States is saying yes. You all know that I'm vaccinated. I got vaccinated so I could travel. I have no regrets about that, but it should be a choice. And if people have not made that choice, then that is their responsibility. We cannot keep shutting down society because of people's personal medical decisions. And particularly not when children are experiencing a massive mental health crisis. It makes absolutely no sense, and parents need to start demanding that it stops. If parents are not going to find their balls, and I mean that for women too, women have figurative balls. If they're not going to find their balls and stand up for their kids, then I just don't know what more can push them in that direction at this point. I just don't know. To be clear, there are some hard decisions and unavoidable trade-offs. COVID can lead to hospitalization or worse for a small percentage of vaccinated adults, especially, I don't even know if I can read this. I'm reading the New York Times. I don't even know if I can read this on YouTube. I don't even know if I can. I don't know if they'll give me a strike for this video. Check with the CDC for all your vaccine-related information. Given the choices the country has made, it should not be surprising that children are suffering so much. New York Times. New York Times. Is the tide turning? Let's keep an eye on this. Because if the mainstream media, corporate media, what have you, propaganda arm of the DNC, if they turn on if they turn on the teachers' unions and actually start advocating for children, I don't know, man. Better late than never. Little disappointed it took this long. Little disappointed that this is a mental health crisis that we will probably not recover from in my lifetime. That was a completely avoidable mental health crisis. But, you know, I suppose it is what it is. So, guys, let me know what you think about that. As a reminder, you are watching Live at 5, a little stream that I'm doing on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays on this channel. On Fridays, I will be streaming as well, but I'm going to be doing it, not there, on a different channel. I'm going to be doing it on my second channel, Actively Unwoke. We're going to stream at 5 over there for happy hour on Fridays. If you have not yet mounted that like button, it would be amazing if you could do so. And of course, please make sure while we're sitting here, please make sure you join my locals community. You can join for free at kb.locals.com. If you would like to support the work I'm doing and help keep me independent, you can become a supporter in Locals, get all sorts of exclusive perks, including tomorrow at noon. We have our second community Zoom of 2020. We do open community Zooms twice a week in my Locals for supporters. We do them on Mondays at 7 p.m. and we do them at noon on Wednesdays to allow some other people who are in different time zones around the world or just available during the day to come and have a chat. It's a completely open forum. It is not recorded. You get to meet some great people. I have the best community on all of Locals. We also have a Bitchcraft coming up on Saturday. It is on Saturday at 3 p.m. I'll be putting some more information about that in Locals. Bitchcraft is a time when we craft on Zoom. You can bring your knitting, your crochet, your needlepoint, your laundry that needs to be folded. You can clean your gun. You can do whatever. You can do whatever craft you want. 3 p.m. on Sunday. We're going to be doing that in my Locals. You can get access to that by becoming a supporter for $5 a month. You can also do it as an annual member at $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift. And when you do so, you will unlock all the exclusive features in Locals. All right, guys, for our last segment for today, it looks like we got some people. Deborah's going to be doing some watercolor painting on Saturday. Excellent. Patrice has got some sewing lined up. Fantastic. Sin is doing her crochet. I've got a nice little knitting project sitting right over here on the table. I've been working on this project forever. No. My community is, I'm going to say it. I'm going to throw down the gauntlet. My community is better than Viva's. My community is better than Viva Barnes. We have support groups. We have all sorts of stuff going on. I know they talk about the law and cases and all this stuff, and I'm sure it's really great because they're two really, really smart people. But come on, man. Come on. My community is the best. Does trimming cannabis count? Yes. As long as you share. All right, guys, let's talk about love, shall we? You guys want to talk about love? So I'm on Getter. Who else is on Getter? Who else is on Getter? I'm on Getter. I talked about this yesterday. And yes, although Getter is censoring people and I'm not liking that, I'm still having a ton of fun on Getter. If you haven't followed me yet on Getter, you can follow me at Carlin, just my first name. I know I change my username on different platforms. It's mostly like if I can get the username Carlin, I will always go with that. But get on Getter because it's super fun right now. It's like in the new stages. It's the new social media platform. It works. It doesn't crash. There's lots of stuff going on. I'm really enjoying myself. And one of the conversations I had today on Getter was about love. Because I'm talking about spirituality more now that I have been booted out of the closet of not having a Judeo-Christian worldview and having my own views about spirituality and life and all these things. I like to talk about them. And today I was talking about love and why people might reject love. Now, when I say love, I don't mean it necessarily in a romantic sense. That's how people might perceive the term love, is it's just about romance. No. You can get love from anyone. I think there are two base emotions in the world. There are people, you are either at every single point in your life, you are either acting from a place of love or you are acting from a place of fear. We can experience love from anyone. We can give love to ourselves. We can experience love from a parent, from a partner, from a spouse, from a friend, from the neighbor, from a stranger. We can experience love from strangers. I experience love from strangers all the time. People that are on the internet. excuse me, like you guys, I experience love from strangers all the time. When you guys send me stuff in the mail, or you guys leave a nice comment, or you guys follow me on Gitter, that's experiencing love. Okay? So let's not restrict our definition of love to just like the romantic variety, because there are all sorts of kind of love in the world. And so I was thinking about this concept today, and I was reading up on it. And I was reading up specifically on people who reject love. And I came across this passage that I think just might ring true for some of you. If you have people in your lives that you love them, you want the best for them, and for some reason it's just like they fight against it every step of the way, why might a person reject love? I think we have a huge problem with self-love in this society. I hear from people all the time, they're like, "Carlin, you are so full of yourself. You think too much of yourself." Well, you know what? I would rather every single day a person love themselves than hate themselves. I would rather every single day that a person think too much of themselves rather than not enough of themselves. Because self-love, self-worth, confidence, self-esteem, whatever you want to call it, that can only come from you. You can only give that to yourselves. And I think a lot of people who struggle with that have a propensity to reject love from other people. And this can get them into trouble. I obviously have this public thing that I do. How would it impact me if I rejected love from other people? If I was rejecting love from other people, I wouldn't have been able to build an audience. I wouldn't have been able to build a community. I wouldn't be able to help and serve people in the way that I'm capable and proficient at helping and serving them. I also wouldn't be able to find partners to work with. I wouldn't be able to, have this vibrant, amazing community that helps and supports each other. There are all sorts of reasons why you want to be open to accepting love that have nothing to do with romance. A lot of times it has to do with success in the world. Just think about it from the most basic level of like, you know what? If you're trying to get a new job, you better be open to accepting love. Because if you are not open to accepting love, the chances of you getting that job offer that you want are like really low. Because in some respects, when we accept a job or we go into business, that is like a marriage. Let me see. Oh, Rockfin is seeming to having some trouble going. I'm not sure what's going on there. Sorry to people watching on Rockfin. But I want to read this passage. This was a passage that I was reading earlier today, and it really resonated with me. And it said, "The person who struggles greatly with receiving unconditional love and devotion does so because the ego tells them that they don't deserve to be loved in such a way. The love that initially makes them feel wonderful eventually ends up making them feel worse. And the part of the ego that is aware of that starts to resent the person loving them. They feel that they can't live up to this image of perfection that the person so obviously sees. And they take any excuse, no matter how flimsy or insignificant, to use as their motivation for running away. They will turn on the person in a heartbeat because it is the only way they feel they can survive." There are some people who have such self-esteem issues that receiving love in any form from another person sends them into a literal tailspin. I'm sure many of you have people like this in your lives. Let's see, I had a little bit more of this thread, and then I want to share with you something someone else wrote with me. I said, "Love can come from anywhere, from yourself, a parent, a partner, a friend, a community. But here's one of the greatest shames of life. When people with low self-worth are on the receiving end of love, that can be the scariest thing they've ever experienced. They don't view themselves as worthy of it. So someone offering it to them creates so much cognitive dissonance that it can almost destroy their view of the world." Think about when we talked about red pilling, right? We've talked about red pilling. I've talked about my red pill moment where I was sitting in the car in the deserted street and I had a migraine so bad because the way I saw everything in the world was just falling apart. For me, realizing that the Democrats and the news media had lied to me my entire life made me question everything about my worldview. And I had to go through a process of destroying how I viewed the world in order to be able to build that back up again. It is the same thing with people who struggle to receive love. If someone comes along, and again, I'm not talking about romantic love here. If someone comes along and shows them that love, that can very literally destroy their worldview. If they have their entire lives struggled to love themselves, then it is going to be near damn impossible for them to accept love from other people. If their view of themselves is wrong, if they are worthy of love when they believe they're not, what does that mean for everything else in their lives? That love ends up causing them a great deal of pain, and that pain can make them angry. And when it makes them angry, they can lash out at the person sending them love in an order to destroy it. You know, let's do Tarot Tuesday, shall we? Let's do Tarot Tuesday. I talked about this with my locals the other day. So if you were on my local stream the other day, this is going to be a little bit of a rehash, but I talked about this on Sunday after F'd Up News. This is the card that this reminds me of. Now, we're not doing psychic stuff right now, okay? We're going to do psychic stuff at 9:30 with Joshua. This is just to illustrate an archetype. This is a person who is trapped, but they are trapped in a prison of their own creation. No one's forcing them to stay there. They could take the binds off if they wanted to and walk away. There are no guards. This is a person that's trapped. When we try to love people who are not ready to receive love, what we're doing is we're trying to break them out of the prison that they have created for themselves. Now, there could be a lot of reasons why they've created that prison. Usually it has to do with trauma in childhood. And that's very sad, and we're going to talk about that in a sec. There could be any number of reasons why they could have created this prison for themselves. And I'm not trying to dismiss the negative impact of any of those things on their lives. But what I want you to know is that if you have someone in your life that is struggling with receiving love, like we just talked about, you can't break them out of this prison. It is not your job to break them out of this prison. It's an impossibility for you to break them out of this prison. They have to want to leave. And some days it can feel like you're beating your head on the table where you just want them to see. You want them to see the choices that they have. You want them to see that the road they're going down is not going to serve them. You want them to see that they are literally this tied up and bound person. But if they don't want to see it, there is nothing that you can do to force them to. And you shouldn't ever allow that to weigh on you. It is probably not their fault that they're in this prison. Well, we always have to take a little bit of responsibility. We always have to take responsibility for our circumstances. But when shit happens to you when you're a kid, you know, it is really difficult. Yeah, I mean, like, exactly. So this is another example in the chat. Smokers won't stop smoking until they want to quit. You can apply this to anything. Anytime someone has created a literal prison for themselves, you can't pull them out of it. It is not your job. You have to allow them to live their own lives. You have to allow them to make their own choices. So I posted this on Getter, and this person responded to me, and I just really appreciated. Oh, I have to bring it back up on the screen. Hang on. I really appreciated this response. This person said, I'm one of those people, and I'll say this. Love, or even liking, is a major source of anxiety. It's not limited to love relationships alone. The greater the anxiety, the greater the impulse to flee. Frankly, they get along better with people who are relatively indifferent to them. It's more a running away from than a turning on thing. They can't they can't articulate why they're disappearing. It's not to survive, it's to return to a mental state in which they feel comfortable. They get angry because they're terrified. All of these things come from deep, dark places in childhood and are highly resistant to therapy. If you have someone in your life, and again, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because I hope that shows up bigger on the screen. There it did. If you have someone in your life that you're struggling with this with, try to keep this perspective. Try to keep the perspective that they are doing what they're doing because they themselves are struggling. Try not to withhold, love or kindness or empathy from them. And sometimes it can get really difficult. So I'm telling you, man, when you encounter someone that does not want that love, and again, I'm not talking about romantic love, talking about consideration, help, support, whatever it may be, they've created this prison for themselves. They can get angry and they can get mean and they can get vindictive. And for you, this might feel like you're like, what the hell happened? It's because they're struggling with this. And I think putting it in perspective of broken people do broken things. And it's not their fault. And it doesn't make them a bad person that they ended up in this place. I'm not making a judgment on character. Everyone has struggles. But when you're struggling with someone who's lashing out in the way that in this type of situation, I think that having this perspective can be really, really helpful. They're doing it because love or even liking is a major source of anxiety for them, and it's not limited to love relationships alone. They're doing it because the greater anxiety, the greater the impulse they have to destroy the relationship. And they tend to get along better with people who are not going to show them love, who are not going to show them support, who are not going to help them. That's actually their comfort zone. Think about how effed up that is for a second. Think about how much you have to be hurt in order for your comfort zone to be hanging around people who are indifferent towards you, because anything other than indifference is an attack on your very sense of being. They're doing it because they're running away and can't even articulate why they're doing it most of the time. Most of the time, they are not aware of this. Most of the time, what is going on is deep in their subconscious. They are not consciously aware of what they're doing. They're not doing it to survive. They're doing it to feel comfortable because they're terrified of the idea of receiving love. And it probably comes from a deep, dark place in their childhood. And it's a tough situation to go through. And I want to acknowledge that. I know many, many people have been through situations like this. The only thing that you can do is to try to take care of yourself and to know emphatically that you didn't cause this. I know I'm making some assumptions when I say you don't cause it. I mean, maybe you did something. I don't know. But this is not, or if someone in your life is doing this to you, this is not a reflection on your character or your integrity or what you're bringing to the table. It's a reflection on where they're at. And the only thing that you can do is allow them to work their way through it and pray that at some point they release themselves from the prison that they've created for themselves. In the tarot, the swords, hang on, let me show you again. The swords are about mental processes. So it's all about what's going on up here. So this isn't even a physical prison that has been created. This is a mental prison. This is an emotional prison. And the only way for someone to work through it is to learn to love themselves. And that can take a long time. But in the meantime, try not to hate them. Try not to feed into it. And don't allow them to dictate how you view yourself or how much you love yourself, because I'm sure you're pretty awesome. And just because they're doing this to themselves doesn't mean you have to. Let's see, we got some super chats. I know it's like a little bit more serious, but I like this stuff, guys. I'm sorry. I do. I like this stuff. Naruto says, just a reminder to make that preview post. I know what you're talking about, Naruto. So what he's talking about is in my locals, I do a preview post for Effed Up News of the Week, where you can kind of see some of the articles that I'm collecting for Effed Up News of the Week. You can also make suggestions for articles that you would like me to add to it. I'm going to go make that preview post right after this stream. I promise. I slacked for a couple days on the preview post for this week. Naruto said, just saw Mike Harlow did an entire thread on your response to John on Gitter. Oh, so I had this little kid on Gitter last night who was like he was like one of Mike Harlow's like fanboys. Was like, you're a horrible person and Mike Harlow is the best. And I went on his feed. And this kid had posted a video on his feed about how he has mental illness, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having mental health problems. I'm not making a character judgment, but he posted this video and he's giving me advice. And so I responded. I was like, you posted a video on your timeline about how you have mental health problems. I'm not sure why exactly I should take advice from you. And then I also broke the news to him that Mike Harlow doesn't date people who have mental health issues, because he doesn't. Ever. If he finds out you have mental health issues, that relationship ain't going to last long. Which is his prerogative. But if Mike Harlow wants to make a career talking about me, because that is the only thing that drives viewers to his channel, he is more than welcome to do that. And how sad is it that Mike Harlow thinks so little of himself that he can't find other content other than me to talk about? How sad is it that the most viewed stuff on Mike Harlow's channel is about me? How sad is it that his entire social media feeds are about me because he has nothing else to contribute to the world? Someone could learn something about developing self-esteem and self-worth. There are two types of people in the world. There are creators and destroyers. I read about this in my book that's coming out next year. There are creators and destroyers. The creators have high self-worth so that they know that they have something of value to give to the world. One of the reasons I talk about self-worth all the time and expression in relation to self-worth and how kids need to develop self-worth and adults need to develop self-worth is because the only time that we can build things in our lives that are productive and live more fulfilling experiences is when we're creators and when we're building and giving something of value to the world. And the only way that we can build and give value to the world is by knowing that we have it in us. Well, I have another post on Gitter. I have another post I want to show you guys. It was related to this love thing, but I think it's also related to this. This is a quote from the movie Cloud Atlas. Again, I already talked about this in my locals, but let's talk about it here too. This is a quote. I just watched Cloud Atlas for the first time on Christmas. It was like 3 hours. It was a 3-hour commitment, but I was told for years that I needed to watch this movie, and I finally did it. And it took a minute to get into, but I ended up really loving it at the end. And this was a quote that's kind of stood with me, and I want to share it with you guys. And it says, Sixsmith, I climb the steps of the Scott Monument every morning, and all becomes clear. Wish I can make you see this brightness. Don't worry, all is well. All is so perfectly damnably well. I notice now the boundaries between noise and sound are conventions. All boundaries are conventions waiting to be transcended. One may transcend any convention if only one can first conceive of doing so. Moments like this, I can feel your heart beating as clearly as I feel my own, and I know that separation is an illusion. My life extends far beyond the limitations of me. Now, what I like about this quote in reference to the discussion of creators versus destroyers is it's right in the middle. All boundaries are conventions waiting to be transcended. One may transcend any convention if only one can first conceive of doing so. When we're talking about people being creators in their lives, you can only be a creator if you believe that you can transcend a convention. You can only be a creator if you believe that you have something of value to give the world. You can only do that if you have that belief. We have to start there. And because creators have a high self-worth, because creators know that they can give something of value to the world, they tend to focus on building things, on doing things that help people. They tend to lead more fulfilling lives because they have purpose in their lives. And their purpose is not defined by other people. Their purpose is defined by them. Then on the other hand, we have destroyers. And there's a spectrum. Listen, it's a spectrum. Let me get myself big again. It is a spectrum, right? There's all sorts of levels in between. I'm talking about the poles. Destroyers do not have high self-worth. Destroyers don't believe in themselves enough to know that they have anything of value to give the world. Destroyers don't believe or can't conceive of transcending any convention. And because destroyers don't believe they have anything valuable to give the world, what they instead focus their energy on is destroying other people. Because that is the only way they have to gain self-worth, is by destroying other people. Because they don't believe that they can build anything. They don't believe they can do anything. I wrote about this in my book that's coming out next year called Actively Unwoke. You can pre-order it on Amazon right now. But I wrote about it in reference to the woke left and the progressives and the SJWs and how they're trying to destroy our world. And I believe that a lot of people are gotten sucked into this woke, progressive SJW mindset because they have low self-worth. And you can tell they have low self-worth most of the time just by looking at them. Because when people have low self-worth, they wear that ugliness all over their faces. You want to know why I'm 40 years old and I don't have wrinkles? And my skin is pretty clear? I'm not angry all the effing time. Because I've done years of self-development work where I feel good about myself, and any one of you can do the same thing. When people do not do that, you can always tell how someone feels about themselves based on how they look. People who don't like themselves very much look older. They look older. They wear their anger all over their faces. So when it comes to the woke left, I do believe that a lot of them are they have destroyer mindsets. They don't believe they have anything valuable they can give the world. They don't believe they can build anything. That's why they spend all their time taking down statues. It's why they spend all their time telling people what language they can use and trying to control other people's lives. When you have high self-worth, you do not have to worry about trying to control other people's lives. You don't have to build your YouTube channel or your Getter audience about destroying other people that you don't like. I don't know why Mike Carlo's even worried about me. Mike Carlo has no relevance in my life whatsoever. The only reason I even talk about him is because he can't stop effing talking about me. You know, I made this point. Actually, this is on Getter too. I make so many good points on Getter. Let's see. I make so many good points on Getter. Let's just go back. This is relevant to this too. Pro tip. If you don't want somebody in your life, then don't talk about them. But if all you do is talk in public about this person that you supposedly don't want in your life, it seems like you kind of want that person in your life. There's a thin line between love and hate. For my money, if someone is spending all their time talking about me on the internet, well, I'm not going to say that they hate me, because they sure seem to love talking about me, don't they? They sure seem to want me to respond, don't they? But I'll take it as a lesson and I'll use it on my channel to teach other people to learn to love themselves. Because the other is just not worth it. Brian Stelter is 36 years old. Brian Stelter is almost 5 years younger than me. I'm going to be 41 in April. Brian Stelter is 4 years younger than me, at least. Who looks older, me or Brian Stelter? You know what the correct answer is. Come on. Yeah, guys, if you follow me on Getter and let me know you watch my channel or let me know that you're in my locals or what have you, I will absolutely 100% follow you back. But just let me know. No, not Brian Stelter, not the Stray Cats singer. No, Brian Stelter on CNN. All right, guys, that's all I have for right this second. Now, as a reminder, I will be back. Not that one, that one. I'll be back with Joshua at 9:30 tonight live on my main YouTube channel. for Nothing Remotely. My hair is not cooperating. God dang. For Nothing Remotely Controversial. We do it at 9:30 p.m. every Tuesday night. It is the most fun show. Even if you don't believe in psychics, even if you don't Joshua will make you a believer in psychics, by the way. But even if you don't believe in psychics, it's okay. We still have a great old time. You can ask Joshua any question that you want. I know we were off last week because he was traveling, but we're back now. And we have a good time with it. So join us tonight at 9:30 p.m. for that little after party. And then tomorrow I will be back on this channel. I don't know what I'm talking about yet, but you can go and set a reminder time now to come back, or just come back to the channel at 5. And then as a reminder, on Thursday, I will not be live at 5 on Thursday because I'm getting a tattoo. I've had this tattoo appointment on the books for almost a year. I'll be able to show it to you guys. Like, I have the stencil already tattooed on my arm, but I'm getting a sleeve and it's epic. And I'm doing a giant red sun that looks like, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. I'll be able to show you guys, but I'm going to be in the tattoo chair at 5 o'clock on Tuesday, but I'll be back. We're going to go live for Joy Reid Reaction Insurrection MSNBC Watch Party stream on January 6th. You know, they're going to be in rare form. You know, Joy's probably going to be dressed all in black. It's going to be a mournful show. We may even roll into Chris Hayes. Who knows how long we're going to watch MSNBC on Thursday night, but I should have some special guests. Seth from bringammo.com has said that he might pop in for a minute. Justin O'Donnell from Libertarian fame might pop in for a minute. So I think we're going to have a good old time at Thursday. It's just going to be a little bit later. And then, of course, on Friday, we're going to do happy hour on my second channel, Actively Unwoke. We're going to be watching the 2019 Democratic Socialist Convention. And I've been assured by people who have watched it that it is off the rails, woke, and insane. And I think we're going to have a great time with it. Let's see. Fish Addict 2 says, I didn't believe in astrology and tarot, but you have to catch Joshua and Carlin. Very entertaining. I'm addicted. I know you guys love Joshua more than you love me. It's fine. It's fine. But we do have a lot of fun with it. All right, guys. That's all I have for the moment. If you want to catch up with me tomorrow at noon in my Locals Community Zoom, you do need to become a member. So please make sure you sign up at kb.locals.com/support, or you can sign up for free here too. If you're not ready for the support yet, that's cool, but just sign up for free. That way, if I get a YouTube strike or something else stupid, I can still get in touch with you. We can still do videos and live streams and stuff like that. We just have to do it in Locals. So you can help me out by becoming a supporter at $5 a month. You can do it for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can make a one-time gift. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, I hope I earned that subscription today. Please also hit that thumbs up, mount the like button on the way out the door. All right, guys, I'll see you at 9:30 or maybe at 5 p.m. tomorrow. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.